It's 7:04, so we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Christine and I really appreciate your time hopping onto this webinar on a Tuesday evening after, for most of us, crazy Memorial Day weekend, graduation, end of school year, all the seasons that we're all going through. So we really appreciate it. And we also appreciate and recognize you prioritizing your wellness, health and wellness, and being here to learn a little bit more about perimenopause, kind of what it means and the symptoms that you're having, and to empower you with some amazing tools and resources. Our plan is to go for no more than 30 minutes. We definitely want to make sure there's a questions and answers opportunity at the end. But please, we're super informal, Christine and I both. So, just go ahead and put questions in the chat as we're going along. And if we feel like we can answer them real time or save them till the end, we'll do our best to make sure we do that. And yes, there will be a recording of this webinar. You'll receive it within 24 hours after webinar through the email that you have received to let you know we were having this evening. As a FYI, we decided to do a women's health series over the next 3 months. So we're doing the perimenopause webinar tonight. Then we are doing PMS and PCOS the third week of June 25th, I believe. And then we're doing menopause focused one in July. So there is a 3-part series. This is one of 3. So Christine and I will quickly do a quick little introduction for those of you that don't know either one of us. I feel like each of you know probably one of us. Christine and I have been working together for a while now, and so I don't even want to call her colleague anymore. She's a very dear friend, and just love the opportunity to co-host with her every time I get. For the purpose of the webinar tonight, we're going to dig deep and focus on perimenopause, and the focus is, which I hate, it's essentially our second puberty, which is so great because the first one we only had to worry about ourselves, and this time we have all the other hats and things that we're juggling. It's so fun, yay. And then we also want to make sure that you leave this webinar with some tools and resources that you can implement as early as tonight if you wanted to. But the power guide that I provided as a free resource with this webinar gives you kind of a 7-day plan with very specific information about your daily routine. So I want to make sure that should be included in the emails you've been receiving, but please reach out to Christine and I if you're having trouble accessing that link. We want to make sure that you get it. So we're going to talk about perimenopause, what it is, why it's misunderstood, not only by ourselves, but also by your medical team. Yeah, speaking as a nurse practitioner, our medical team, we do not get the education that we should regarding this topic. And make sure that you're aware of the signs and symptoms and empower you with tools to improve your symptoms and realize that it is not in your head and these symptoms are real, and we want to empower you with the tools to feel better sooner than later. Christine, I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah, thanks you guys for jumping on tonight. And it's so good to see faces, and I know there's some new faces on this webinar as well, and those that watch the recording. But yeah, I love helping women dial in feeling good inside and out. So strength training, nutrition, coaching, those are my loves. But I also, to me, that holistic thoughts, mindset, habits, it all comes together for us to thrive. And as we wear these different roles and hats as women, it can get really clunky down the road when we feel like we're just not thriving in who we are. So, I mean, I feel like we all have these beautiful God-given bodies. So just to see them come alive is wonderful. So thank you for being here. And Julie and I want to be available. So we wanted to at least introduce ourselves quickly, but there's so much good information in the rest of this time.
Thank you, Christine. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Julie Brown. I'm a nurse practitioner with 25 years of healthcare experience, primarily in the conventional traditional space, but in the last, probably 5 to 7 years have had my eyes opened up to the functional medicine space, and through my own personal health journey, decided to get certified in functional medicine and bioidentical hormone therapy. Just having been told and gone through the symptoms that you're likely experiencing of, well, your labs are coming back normal, everything's coming back normal, so it just must be your high stress life. And that's the reason why you're having the symptoms you're having. That was not the case. So I just want to be able to pay it forward and help all of you feel empowered and learn more about how you can know that what you're feeling is real, and it's okay to ask for additional testing. And you're gonna get on this webinar some additional scripting and things that you can ask for in a very respectful way to get to those answers. And so with that, I'm not gonna waste any more time because we have lots to cover. My general disclaimer is that for the sake of this webinar, this is informational, educational. This in no way establishes a provider-patient relationship, although Christine and I would love the opportunity to continue to walk with you hand in hand in your health and wellness journey. But this is strictly for educational, informational purposes. If you were to do anything different with your exercise, your supplements, your medications, we would want to encourage you to reach out to your current healthcare provider to make sure that there's no cross interactions or issues with current conditions or supplements or medications that you are on. All right, just going to dive right in. So how unfair is this that we actually have to go through a second puberty, as if the first one wasn't brutal enough? And as I already said earlier, like, we only really had to worry about ourselves then, and now we're wearing the wife hat and the career hat potentially, and then relationship hat, the parenting hat, the aging parents that now need us hat, and so many more. So we're juggling so many different things. Perimenopause is kind of like a blanket term, but it essentially can start as early as our mid to late 30s and can last anywhere from 4 to 10 years. Some women are lucky enough to have that like more closer to 4-year time range, but others of us can have a 10 to 12-year range of these, which we're going to dive into it. But, I call it constellation of symptoms, where it's just relentless, and it's not relentless day by day. It's just this crazy roller coaster that we're experiencing. So it is an average of a 4 to 10-year window for most. It's usually early 30s, as late as early 50s, as I've seen, but typically mid 30s to mid 40s is when it seems to kind of start to ramp up. There is no test that can 100% confirm or say that you're officially in menopause like there is perimenopause like there is for menopause. With menopause, if you're period free for 12 months consecutively, there are some additional blood tests that we can do to say, yep, green light, you're officially in menopause. Unfortunately, this is part of like what's frustrating is that there is no gold standard definitive test to let us know that, hey, you're in perimenopause. It's a collection of all of the symptoms that you're having, looking at the lab work and putting the puzzle together. So think of how erratic our teens are when they go through puberty. And now we're going through basically our second puberty with all the other responsibilities that we're juggling. And it's just very unpredictable and very erratic. And you're trying to just keep peace and keep everything together. So from the medical perspective, it's not our fault. Having come from conventional medicine training, it's just the design of the medical model. There's just very limited education that we get about perimenopause and menopause specifically. And we're trained to identify a symptom, diagnose, and prescribe. And it's kind of that circle or cycle of diagnosis, what's the symptom, diagnose, and prescribe. And it can become a little bit of a vicious cycle. I am 100% not anti-prescription. I believe that there's a time and place for prescriptions, but I feel like we also need to do our due diligence in asking, like, why are these symptoms happening in the first place? And just do a few more additional basic labs before we're jumping to a prescription to put a Band-Aid on the symptom. We could help so many more women if we aren't just saying, here's an antidepressant, here's a prescription to help you sleep better, without actually asking the question why. Perimenopause is a natural transition for all of us. It's just that unfortunately the symptoms can mirror common other conditions. And so what I've seen is, because it can be intermittent or vague, even though there's a handful of things that are fairly common, and we'll talk about that here soon, I feel like from my experience over the past almost 2 decades, I see women in the perimenopause phase, that 10-ish year window, get a new diagnosis of fibromyalgia, depression, new anxiety or worsening anxiety, migraines and arthritis. Those tend to be the top 5. Insomnia would probably be another one as well, which is why they get the sleep agent. So I see prescribed sleep agents and antidepressants commonly prescribed. So you're getting a few more medical conditions added to your list, a few more prescriptions, but you're really not still getting to the root reason of like, why are you having the symptoms in the first place? These changes are real. They can significantly impact your quality of life. I mean, I was on a call earlier today with a patient and she was nearly in tears just with how frustrated she is because she just isn't getting the answer she feels like she deserves. So here's a list of what, from my experience, I commonly see, and they're not ranked in any kind of order, but you know, the brain fog, the irregular periods, weight gain, probably that should, if I was ranking it, that should be unwanted weight gain or weight loss resistance. I would probably rank that at the first. And that can be extremely humiliating, frustrating, and overwhelming for women. You start to like Google your symptoms of, hey, like, am I having early onset dementia? Do I have a family history of Alzheimer's? Why am I not remembering anything anymore? We can lose up to 30 or 40% of our recall and memory, and then our family potentially starts to say, like, we talked about this. Why aren't you remembering this? So most of my patients are like, something's not right. Something's just off. Something's not the same. And you'll notice mood shifts, sleep struggles, even changes in libido, hair issues. Usually it's thinning issues or texture changes, skin issues. Either it becomes more sensitive or now you're developing new rashes, which could be a clue that there could be new food sensitivities, which is something that can happen with the hormone roller coaster. Another common concern that I hear is new or worsening anxiety. So if you've had concerns with anxiety in the past, now you're just having really intense panic attacks and for not a real clear reason. And so you're going to your doctor, you're saying, hey, like, this is what I'm feeling. And then your labs are coming back normal. So then you truly start to believe that it is in your head because it must be. My labs are coming back normal. And we'll dig a little bit deeper on the lab information to empower you with some scripting and tools for you to be able to like have a respectful conversation with your provider team. I'm going to pause for a second and give Christine the opportunity to kind of chime in. I just realized I love talking about this. So I didn't even give her a chance to talk about it.
Oh, Julie, I will totally chime in, but I love it. There's so much goodness. So I think this is just always a good beginning of like, I think it's a beautiful ramp up to what we're going to get to. Cause I think there's so many of these symptoms that we feel we're overwhelmed and it's frustrating. So yeah, you're doing great.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and so the other thing is like before we move to the next slide is like, you know, we talked about the, you know, the anxiety and the skin stuff and the hair stuff, but like joint pains and aches. So fibromyalgia, arthritis, things like that. They're like, I feel like I'm 80 years old and you're, you know, 36. So those joint aches and pains that are creeping in, that there's a reason for that. And so giving you a prescription, you know, a super strong anti-inflammatory prescription is not, that'll help you feel better, but it's not getting to the root cause naturally so that you can fix that problem and the why. All right, the roller coaster. I know I've mentioned it already, and I did tag a few little things because for me, I have to do silly analogies to help me like remember. So when you're talking about perimenopause, everybody thinks about the sex hormones. They think about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And so those are the 3 primary like sex hormone driving factors. But there's some other hidden players in the game that we'll talk about on the next slide. But just for foundation, estrogen definitely plays a key role in regulating our mood and energy. So that's why I said me, crazy. So me, mood and energy is estrogen. And it is the most erratic and crazy fluctuation through our perimenopause transition phase, which again can be that 4 to 10 year on average. So when estrogen levels dip, women commonly report intense fatigue and moodiness and irritability. It's the most erratic in perimenopause, hands down. So in order to ensure that when we're checking those blood levels, and I'll reinforce this here in a few slides, that is accurate, depending on if you're cycling, not cycling, you've had a hysterectomy, those kinds of things. That's why it's important to have that one-on-one conversation with Christine and I, so that we can know, based on where you're at, what your story is, we're making sure you're getting those blood levels done at the precise best window of time each month. Because if you're doing it just randomly when it's convenient for you based on your situation, that information is not accurate. And then we're saying everything's fine, but I have yet to have a patient tell me that they were told exactly what 2-day window to get their blood work done, their hormone blood work done. So it's super important. Next is progesterone, the cycle calm. So the progesterone is the hormone that's vital for regulating our cycles, and imbalances is what starts to lead to that first red flag that maybe you're going through that perimenopause phase with irregular periods, heavier periods, more painful periods than you've had before. Progesterone is our calm. It's our nurturing. It's highest during pregnancy, and it begins to just unfortunately plummet during perimenopause. This is the hormone that allows us to multitask and juggle all the things with a smile on our face. So hence all the memes about us losing our you know what, when we're always able, historically, we've always been able to hold it together. This one, so estrogen's doing this, and progesterone just eventually does a complete tank over time. And then there's our lovely testosterone. Though often associated with men only, it's crucial for us women as well. Low testosterone can affect our energy, our confidence, and obviously our libido as well. So all of these hormone shifts dramatically influence not just your mood, but also weight and energy levels, feelings that many of you are probably experiencing off and on throughout the month. I wanted to dial in a little bit more about mood, weight, energy in our cycles before we jump into the hidden players on the team that are not playing nice in the sandbox. First, mood. When estrogen and progesterone fluctuate, so does your serotonin. Serotonin is a brain chemical that's tied to happiness and calm. So when low progesterone can leave you feeling anxious, edgy, and tearful, I've had many patients who are like, I just cry for no known reason. And people are looking at me like, what is wrong with you? But because of progesterone dip, there's a high cortisol that can be happening from this stress of like what's going on, which can just fuel the emotional fire. So with the estrogen or progesterone fluctuation, this is what I need you to hear, that you're not being dramatic. Your brain chemistry is literally shifting. Regarding your weight, hormone changes can lead to insulin resistance. And most of my patients, I actually have them do a continuous glucose monitor. So that just for a minimum of 2 weeks, so that we can see how their glucose is responding to stress and sleep and sickness and movement. So unfortunately, most of us in the perimenopause phase will see abdominal weight gain. A lot of you have a more concentrated set of cortisol receptors in your abdomen, which is why we tend to see that additional weight gain in this transition of life. We see it in our abdomen and not so much elsewhere, but more heavily, no pun intended, in your abdomen. So there's progesterone changes happening, which can lead to water retention and cravings. And then your thyroid starts to get a little sluggish because it gets tired trying to keep up, which can also tank your metabolism as well. So if weight feels harder to manage more than it ever has, it's likely hormonal, not just willpower. Regarding your energy, I put tired but wired. So when your cortisol is dysregulated, cortisol is a hormone that comes from your adrenal glands. You have two little glands that look like lima beans that sit on top of both kidneys, and that is your stress hormone. People most commonly know that cortisol is stress hormone. So when that is dysregulated, you can feel that tired but wired feeling. So you're dragging in the morning, even though you know you slept, you don't feel like you have restorative sleep. And then you get kind of like a second wind in the evening at some point. And so then you add in common deficiencies that a lot of us have in B vitamins and magnesium, and then those blood sugars that start to kind of go erratic, one of the hidden players here in a second. And so it's no wonder that you're just constantly running on empty. So it's not that you're being lazy, it's that your body's asking for support. not caffeine. And the final bullet point here on cycles, ovulation becomes extremely irregular. We almost have an increased risk of, I don't want to say risk of, but increased chance of unexpected pregnancy because of the irregularity with the ovulation cycles. So estrogen can spike and crash with no notice whatsoever. Progesterone continues to try to help, but it is like, I'm done. I've done my 20 years, I'm done. And it just continues to decline, which then makes estrogen seem even more dominant and aggressive. So it leads to heavier, longer, more painful periods or skipped cycles altogether. And all of us are very different. But irregular intense periods are one of the first red flags of that hormonal imbalance. So we have to pay attention and not just power through. The hidden players, nobody talks about these guys. And that's what this is like one of my favorite slides in this whole thing, because these are the key points that my patients love the most, because it's usually not that like deeper dive look, and it what starts to shed light on, oh, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I mean, yes, the sex hormones, we've talked about the me crazy estrogen and the calm cycle progesterone and the confident testosterone. Those are all important, but it's important to also consider thyroid, insulin, and cortisol. So when your sex hormones start to become erratic, these are the other glands in your body that try to be like, okay, we hear you, you need some help, we hear you crying out, we're going to come in and try and help and play nice in the sandbox. But they don't have near the endurance that your testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen have had for over 20 years. And so they've just been able to kind of hide in the corners and get credit for all things. And now all of a sudden they're being called to action. So your thyroid, if you didn't have a thyroid issue coming into perimenopause, you're likely to start to see a struggling thyroid and a sluggish thyroid, which further leads. So we already talked about estrogen and progesterone and testosterone causing this, but now you've got thyroid coming into the mix. That's now like, oh, I don't have the energy for this. And so you start to have the fatigue and weight issues from a sluggish thyroid. Then there's the insulin. So the insulin and cortisol, even though they need to be best friends, they don't play well together. And so if the insulin starts to become erratic, the cortisol is like, it's your stress alert. It's your first line defense. It's like, wait, why is everybody like freaking out? Everybody's been calm. Everybody's been fine. So between the insulin and cortisol, there's this erratic dance that's going back and forth. So you get the stubborn belly weight, you get the energy crashes, you get the fatigue that's out of normal, you get the emotional lability is what I call, where you're just like, for no reason, get really edgy or irritable, or you cry for no reason. I say no reason, it's truly hormonally based, but you feel like, why the heck is this happening? Like, I've had control, I've been able to do all the things, and why can I not do all the things? And I'm working out harder, I'm eating cleaner, I'm doing all the right things, but things are getting worse. I'm getting bigger, I'm getting grumpier. It's just not there. But my labs are normal. So what's wrong with me? And I hate that when I have my patients come to me and say, what is wrong with me? And then I look at their labs through the functional medicine lens, and we're able to kind of start to walk down that journey with them. Hence the conventional versus functional medicine, and having 25 years of healthcare experience, being trained in the conventional traditional model. And then, like I said at the beginning, with my own health journey and the functional medicine space. This is the analogy I always use, and most people tend to like it, so I'm going to stick with it, is traditional conventional medicine. It's a volume practice. They see 20 to 30 patients a day. They don't have time. And having worked in that space, there's no way to spend an hour with each person when you have to see 20 to 30 people in an 8-hour day. It's how the model is built. So their job is to put out the fires. And their job is to, here's my analogy, is to open the car door, the driver's side door, look at the dashboard. Is the check engine light on or off? Yes or no? Because our job is to put out a fire. If it's on, we're going to put out the fire. If it's not on, then great. Okay, I'll see you in 6 months. Keep me posted. I'll see you in a year. Functional medicine, we care about the dashboard as well, but we're also lifting the hood and we're looking at everything under the hood. So my appointments in the conventional medicine space were an average of 10 to 14 minutes. They had to be to get through 20 to 30 patients a day. In functional medicine, I'm able to spend, I would say, I'm giving you a rough estimate right now, but I would say anywhere from 45 minutes at the shortest to sometimes 75 minutes are the average appointments, because it takes time to peel back all the layers and look at everything. So you're in the conventional medicine space, the lab ranges to look for check engine light. Is there a fire? Yes or no. So if your lab range is within everything's fine, it's not looking only for the fire on either end, then you're fine. You don't have the diagnosis. You only have the issue or diagnosis if you're on the far left or right side of high or low, where functional medicine has a tighter range, and we're looking for the yellow lights along the way so that you don't run the red light or the check engine light doesn't go off. So they are looking at some of the same lab markers that we're looking at, but we look at additional lab markers to put the full puzzle together. Best time to test hormones. This is one that I will talk about often. Like I said earlier, I have yet to have a patient who is cycling who has told me that they were told what day to get their labs done on, their hormone labs. Hormone labs are best done in the morning, ideally within an hour of waking. And if you're cycling, it's best to do it between day 19 and 21 of your cycle. And it's not uncommon for patients to be like, well, what does that mean? I'm not sure. Day 1 is the first day of bleeding. And then if you're on a 28-day cycle, you think you want to get that blood work done after ovulation. So that's around that 19 to 21-day cycle, because you usually ovulate right in the middle. So day 1 is day 1 of bleeding, and then day 19 to 21 if you march it out. Everybody's cycle is a little bit different, and so that's why it's important to talk to your medical provider to know precisely when that beautiful 48-hour window is, because then that lets us know it's the best window of time for progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. If you have a Mirena IUD, or if you've had a hysterectomy but still have your ovaries, if you're irregular because of perimenopause and that progesterone estrogen roller coaster, those are all great examples of conversations that you would have with your functional medicine provider or your medical provider to say, hey, like, when's the best time? Because I'm not textbook, every 28 days. Additional labs to consider. There are approximately, I would say, probably 15 to 16 additional basic labs that I like to have my patients get in comparison to what your PCP orders. So again, they're going to do their due diligence. They're not doing anything wrong. They're doing their due diligence to check for any obvious common check engine lights or fires. So it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but functional medicine has the time and space to do some additional basic markers so that we can put the full puzzle together to identify anything that might be going towards that fire or that red light or that check engine light. So some common things that I see patients coming to me with, they say, well, I don't have a thyroid problem. Well, their thyroid, only TSH has been checked. And it's like the 4 tires of the car. You need all 4 tires to drive the car safely. So if you're only checking the TSH, that's not a panel. You need 3 other, arguably a 5th, because you need a spare tire, to check to see that your thyroid is truly, truly healthy. So that's just one example of many. I listed a couple here in the perimenopause power guide that you guys are getting. There's a full list of very specific additional lab markers in that resource for you, so that you can literally just like look at it and be able to like just read it off of there. There's about 15 additional markers that I think are important. They're not extra, they're not advanced. They're just additional information to have that full picture. Fasting insulin is another one that's super important. I'm hard pressed to have an example of a patient coming to me with a fasting insulin. That's an early marker that you're headed down that prediabetes pathway. Your fasting glucose and your A1C are commonly done, but those are late markers. The fasting insulin lets us know almost years in advance that you're starting to head down that prediabetes pathway. And that's something that is reversible and actionable and can help you increase your longevity, knowing that in advance and being proactive. I promise, Christine, I'm going to let you talk. Okay. So Balanced natural. So now we're going to focus on, these are obviously being functional medicine minded and holistic. Again, not anti-prescription, but just as holistic as possible. I'm just going to do like high level. I'll take this slide. How about this? I take this slide and Christine will take the next one. I will focus on, here are the top natural supplementation things that you can consider to include in your daily routine that are going to make a world of difference, if not already. And then we have some trusted, amazing science-backed products on the next page that are just even more specific. So this page is just more high level. So magnesium is essential for over 300 body functions. It's on the top of the list, so on purpose on this slide. Unless you have severe diarrhea, that is like literally, I know that's TMI, but I'm a nurse practitioner, so I'm going to go there. It is the only contraindication to magnesium because it is a smooth muscle relaxant, and so it will loosen that situation. Most of my patients have leg cramps, headaches, they're constipated, they're not pooping every day. You should be pooping every single day. If you're not having a bowel movement every single day, you're not detoxifying. And so those toxins are just recirculating in your body, which is not helping your hormone balance. Vitamin D is critical. I live in Florida, Sunshine State. Even though I'm here, most of us are deficient. So just because you live in a place that's sunny most of the time, most of us are deficient. So vitamin D is huge for your immune system, huge for your immune system and your hormones. Omega-3s. Omega-3s are excellent for us. They're great for brain health and for inflammation in our body. So it usually comes in a combination of DHA and EPA. So when you look at your labels, if you see omega hybrid or complex, it could have omega-3s, 6s, and 9s. 6s and 9s are okay, but they need to be in a smaller percentage because in a too high percentage, they can be inflammatory, which is just going to be feeding this roller coaster. Omega-3 should be the higher percentage, and DHA and EPA is amazing. I just learned this recently actually. DHA, I think of that if you're more worried about cognitive support. So I think of like DHA, D for dementia, and EPA, E for everything else. So the EPA helps with like systemic inflammation, and the DHA is more targeted for brain cognition. So a good quality omega-3 is super critical. B complexes are really, oh, I'm gonna mute, there we go. B complexes are amazing, and an extra bonus if they're methylated. And I could do a whole webinar on methylation, but I will spare you this evening on that. As far as herbals go, the Vitex, when we're talking about perimenopause, is huge because Vitex is basically a chase tree. It's an amazing natural herb that can help with the progesterone and estrogen balance. Rhodiola, ashwagandha are both adaptogen or like adaptogen herbs. So they are amazing because they actually are awesome because they will actually balance with the levels that you need. So if your cortisol levels are too high, it'll help balance it back down to normal. If they're too low, it'll help bring it up to more normal. So those adaptogenic herbs actually recognize your highs and lows and help bring you back to the middle. So I love the adaptogenic herbs. And then there's the bioidentical hormone therapy. That is a topic in and of itself, but I did want to give it some time here for about a minute, and then we'll go to the next slide. I am also bioidentical hormone certified. It was important to me to have a good understanding of how I can most naturally support you instead of synthetically through prescriptions support you for hormones. And I've been in Florida for almost 5 years. I've worked full-time for over 4, opened my practice last year full-time for functional medicine, and it worked at Moffitt Cancer Center. So I see what we're consuming, breathing, eating, absorbing, synthetically ingesting prescription-wise, and what it's doing to our cancer rates. And so for me, it was super important to make sure that I got trained in bioidentical hormone therapy so that I could support you through this transition in the most natural way possible. So there are pellets, there are creams, there are troches, there are sublingual tablets, there are patches, there are injections. Not everybody is a candidate for each one of the things that I just said. Every one of you is unique, your story is unique, and that needs to be taken into consideration based on past medical history, on your current symptoms, in your lab work. And then that's a dynamic process. That's a conversation we're having every 6 to 8 weeks based on how you're doing, what we need to do, what we need to change to optimize you. So there is a time and place for bioidentical hormones. It's not a candidate for everyone, or no, I should say not everyone is a candidate for that, but it's usually a pretty good choice for most people. And I'm happy to have a deeper dive conversation with any of you that are interested in talking about bioidentical hormone therapy. Okay, Christine, I'm going to take a pause and let you take over.
Gotcha. No, I'll be short and sweet, but I think I love what you said, Julie. I think so many people just really want to know, am I a candidate for this? Like, what would be the best next step, you know? And I think really giving high level to some of the supplements and herbs, but also bioidentical, just for people to really know. So I do hope they take you up on having like your, clarity call. And then if you dig deeper, that they really get to spend that time with you because it's so important. These are supplements that we trust. I think in the perimenopausal state, the vitalizer, sometimes it's finding something that has been tried and true, decades of research. I think all of these come from a company that really does their due diligence on the science, that they're third party tested, they are beyond organic, they really are safe for your body. I think when I was younger, my values were it had to be cheap and it had to be convenient. And now mine's, it's got to be quality and it's got to be safe. And I just really changed my values based on what I realized I wanted for my body. We only get one body. So I really am mindful of what I'm putting into it. Not synthetic, but truly something that's very safe and holistic and whole food supplement. So the Vitalizer is just a very complex multivitamin with all kinds of really good bioidentity nutrients, like 80 bio nutrients in there. It's just really, it's got the whole market in there. Stress relief, I think Julie hit it on the nail. Stress relief is just something that our cortisol levels are crazy. Sometimes we may have grown up in a childhood where we were always stressed. So almost we don't even know our body's under stress. And one of my favorite books was, but the body keeps a score. And sometimes we don't realize that we're got low levels of stress and the two nervous systems getting into that parasympathetic. Stress relief blunts cortisol, so it's super cool in helping you get back into that parasympathetic nervous system. GLA, gamma linolenic acid. I don't know if I said that right. Linolenic. My kids, when I was going through my perimenopause, if I was moody and, excuse my word, a little bit itchy, my children would say, literally chant in the kitchen, GLA. Like Mama needed to take her GLA because she was a little bit moody. That was so helpful for me during my cycles of just getting really calmer, honestly, balancing my moods during my cycle. Chirp and Cha is excellent. It is a chew. I think this is one of the newer ones because some people love that form factor of a chew or a tea. This is really good as far as like a mood booster and stress reducer. It's really wonderful. And then protein and collagen, honestly, what Julie shared at the beginning, when our body is going through so much changes, two of the biggest things that we need is that protein. We need increased protein, and then we need to increase strength building. And those are the two things that I love about what I get to do with clients, but really upping the protein and finding something that is safe, that has no artificial anything, that truly will break down in your body what your body recognizes. And collagen is really good for joint pain, health, not just hair, nails, and skin, but your joints and your body. So wonderful stuff. If you don't have anything, you haven't tried anything, and you really want to maybe try something different, give your body 30 days to try something new and let your body decide what it feels differently. And if you need any help, this is where you can reach out to Julie and I on this.
Awesome. And in sake of time, I realize that I'm going over a little bit, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time on Tuesday evening. This particular slide just is just another recap of the importance of sleep, daily movement, not overtraining. So something that I learned through utilizing an Oura ring, a Whoop watch tracker device is that I was just, HIIT training, cycle training, boot camp training, thinking, burn more calories than I'm consuming. Well, in the perimenopause phase, which is what I'm actively in, so I can relate to all of you, is that was actually raising my cortisol levels and causing me to have more weight gain and weight loss resistance, and was just stressing my body out and creating more inflammation and not helpful. Whereas the trackers will actually say, hey, you're fully rested, you've got a great recovery score today. Today's a good day to take on HIIT. And then at the other one, well, you're not as recovered today. You might need to take it a little bit, less crazy today. Maybe do some yoga, do some stretching. So that's actually been super, super helpful. Blood sugar balanced meals. The Power Guide has a full day example of like what that should look like, some examples for you as well. And then, oh, that reminds me, Christine and I are wanting to offer you guys a full week sample meal plan, but we want to make sure, and I might have said this early on, we want to make sure that you reach out to us so that we can customize that to your personal preferences and or dietary restrictions. We could have just added a link that was a generic out of the box black and white weekly meal plan example, but I know all of us are walking a different path. And so like, I just want to make sure that it's as customized to you as possible. So if you reach out to us through either of our emails, we're happy to give you that 1 week meal plan that's customized and unique to you guys. Hydration and minerals is super important as well. Drink your 60 to 8 ounces of water a day with minerals. That's important. And mindfulness, like that sunshine on your face first thing in the morning, grounding, walking barefoot on the grass. If you're near a beach, you're walking on the beach. I mean, don't all of us want to be able to just walk on the beach every morning, every evening? But those are things that just truly help ground and reset and help things throughout. Sorry, I'm going to just, case studies. And again, because of time, I'm just going to quickly review these guys with you. Just super high level. If you have questions, you know how to get a hold of us. We have our links throughout here if you need anything. So here are just 2 common scenarios. I've kind of hinted to these throughout already, but so first story, 41-year-old female, career driven, 2 kids, 1 in middle school, 1 in high school. Married for 20 years, decided to take on grad school at the same time, had developed new skin rash throughout abdomen and lower back, not really relieved by any prescriptive, like be on Zantac and Zyrtec at the same time, be on Benadryl at night, be on a Medrol dose pack, steroids. There weren't any known triggers. This is somebody who was very mindful of their routine. Everything was dye-free, allergy-free. The steroids would make the rash go away, but then the rash would come back with no explained reason. 3 different specialists over a 7-year time frame running multiple tests basically said that everything was coming back normal, so it just must be high stress. And based on the original presentation, yeah, you could see it, you could say high stress, but this is not somebody who was, this was their typical routine. Second story, 42-year-old, career driven as well. Recently divorced, in a new relationship, emotions are all over the place, never had anxiety issues, now is just anxiety out of nowhere, out of proportion, sugar cravings all the time, somebody who's been mindful of their eating, working out harder, eating stricter, not seeing any changes, and is starting to literally feel crazy, literally has said the words, I feel I'm crazy, because the labs keep coming back normal. And so they don't have an explanation as to why this is going on. And so here's an antidepressant. That was the answer. And then for the first person, it was, well, here's steroids. And because the steroids make it better, we're not quite sure what's going on. So I just want to stress that this is why I love functional medicine so much. And because we have the time and space to ask the why, to get to the root cause, to lift the hood, to look underneath, and to figure out what's going on. Both of these women were strong-willed, highly motivated, successful women who had juggled all the things very successfully, made it look effortless, and now through perimenopause are struggling to keep the smile on the face and deal with the hormonal roller coaster and try to figure it out, but are being told by conventional medicine that their labs are normal. And through functional medicine, we've been able to uncover that their labs are not normal and their symptoms are real, and we're here to help. Just a reminder of the resources that are available to you. Thank you for signing up for the webinar. Make sure you grab your perimenopause guide. Email us if for some reason you're not able to open the link. It should be working great, but tech issues, they love me. So if there's any issues, please reach out to us. We're happy to give you an additional link for that. Again, reinforcing, we're happy to create that 1 week sample meal plan for you guys with any specific preferences or restrictions. We're here for you. We love to do the one-on-one to give you that personalized care, so it's not cookie cutter out of the box. That is not how we operate. Mm-hmm. So with that, we want to thank you for your time and attendance. We want to honor any of you that are still on and would like to ask any questions. before we close.
I do have one question. Thank you, by the way, this is awesome. And validating, definitely. So about a year ago, I started lifting weights, and I've been recommended to add creatine as well. Do you have an opinion on that for those of us who might be focusing on not necessarily muscle building, but just being healthy?
I'm going to let Christine take it, but my first thing is like muscle is your currency to longevity. So I want to support that 100%. So we just recently had talked about creatine, so I'm going to let Christine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that you only will get the effects when you keep taking it. So to get the creatine effects, it really does help build and support that muscle. It's a very inexpensive because you just want to get, monohydrated, the creatine. But for some people, depending on the amount, I think usually like 5 milligrams, but I think here's the thing. Some people have found like certain brands or certain kinds have caused them maybe weight gain, or your body's going to absorb more water. It's going to retain water. So I think it's precisely, you want to take it like maybe on the way to the gym or right after. And some people see great results. So it's something that you're going to have to continue to take, like if you're taking protein shakes or protein powder, for you to see the results. But I would say try very clean creatine. Try it for a month, see how your body does, see how you, again, what I love about Julie is like our bodies are all different. So just to see how your body reacts, and just like a food log, almost take note of what you see changes wise, and then you'll be your own detective, so to speak, to see how the gains have been, if they've been worth it, if they've worked for you and not against you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great question.
I have a follow-up to that question. Are there any contraindications to taking creatine? Semolina flour. Like blood pressure, blood pressure issues.
I don't think so. I mean, what I think when you take something like BCAAs or beta alanine, to me, or some of those pre-workout drinks, some of those really can raise your heart rate, raise your blood sugar, or raise your blood pressure, so to speak. Honestly, creatine, I really don't think it's not that the effect. But sometimes I think when women we're adding this into our repertoire, sometimes you'll be recommended BCAAs or beta alanine, and that could, or pre-workout, and those to me are the ones that could get more of that. I feel itchy, my heart's racing a little bit, kind of feeling. Whereas creatine, not so much. I think it's more of the water retention. And some people found, I know I've had examples of women saying I had a little GI distress. So again, everyone might be a little more sensitive than others. So just to see and try it out. And I wouldn't go more than 5 milligrams of like creatine and in a day. I remember back in the day when I thought I was going to do bodybuilding, I had 5 milligrams before workout, 5 milligrams after. I probably wouldn't do 10 like I did back in the day. I would just do 5.
Thanks. I was just curious because I take a diuretic, so I wasn't sure if that would it'd be a moot point at that point.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question.
Awesome. Any other questions before we close and give you guys back the rest of your night?
Can I ask a little bit more about the bioidentical hormone therapy?
Yeah.
Because I also got my labs just recently done and told I'm normal for perimenopause. And I feel like it is a natural thing that women are going through. So yes, there's changes. I don't think there's anything that I'm like seriously worried about. But the more I've talked to other women during this phase, I've been finding stories of other women who have started the hormone therapy and have had amazing success. Whereas my old training in naturopathic medicine was kind of to be a little bit wary of messing with natural hormone fluctuations. So I'm kind of curious because I'm really ignorant on this particular topic.
Yeah, so specifically, hormones, it's just there's so many variables. So I use a compounding pharmacy. I'm not a current advocate of pellet therapy because that's 3 to 4 months of a dose inside your body that I can't take out. Once it's in, it's done. So I'm very much about low and slow and evaluating your results, your response. So I don't just treat off of numbers on your blood work, mostly how you're feeling. And I typically will do sublingual tablets because that's a quick absorption and it wears off fairly quickly. And everything's through compounding pharmacy, not your traditional commercial pharmacy, to keep it as natural as possible. So, for example, I don't do synthetic progestin. I do progesterone because progestin can increase your cancer risk. Progesterone actually is brain protective, breast protective, uterine protective.
So I'm seeing that Lisa said, I'm loving my bioidentical progesterone. That's good.
Yeah,
It's
progesterone,
amazing.
bioidentical helps. It's that calm, nurturing, it gives your, like I said, the memes of like us, all of a sudden we're like, everybody can just make their own dinner. We've never been that way. We're like, we'll make dinner for everyone and the neighborhood. So the progesterone can give you that nurturing calm back in a natural way, super low dose. If you're on, and to help kind of go back to Kimberly's question, like anything in excess is a problem. And so whether it's natural, synthetic, like I'm all about the least amount natural when possible. So if somebody's on 200 to 300 milligrams of progesterone, that's natural. However, 200 to 300 milligrams of progesterone is like pregnancy levels. That's not okay either. So there's definitely a delicate balance. Just because it's natural, if you're doing too much of it, that's still too much. I don't know if that answered your question, Kimberly. Sorry, there's just so many ways I could have gone with.
Yeah, no, it totally, I know that was a very ramped up question. I guess in short, is if everyone is going through perimenopause, who should really consider bioidentical hormone therapy? Or is it something that could be available for everyone, even though maybe it's more mild? Is that a more refined question?
Thank you. Yes. So I have everyone that comes to me ask bioidentical questions. They want the bioidenticals. And that's why I said earlier, it's not everyone's a candidate. So if you, it depends on if you have an IUD, if your significant other has had a vasectomy, if you're wanting to continue to grow your family, or you don't want any unexpected surprises or additions to your family. It depends on your history. So if there's an immediate history of breast cancer, that is something that has to be taken into consideration. So not only are you a candidate, but are you a candidate for what particular type? So not everyone is. And there's probably 10 plus questions I would ask to further dig deeper to then be like, okay, maybe, but only for these, not for these. Like example, oral estrogen, you're hard pressed to convince me anyone, no matter what, is a candidate for oral estrogen. Hard pressed. No cancer history or not.
So it sounds like, even for hearing from Kimberly, really it's fine tuning so that you thrive with the right kind, amount, whatever, and just how it should be. So I think it's getting that conversation with you that if there is like a lab workup to be done, then you're able to see that and go, oh, you have these symptoms. This is really what you want to feel like, and this could be your best bet. Is it something that you give to someone and you have them try it for a month and then you adjust, or what does that look like? Protocol-wise?
Yeah, no, that's great as well, because we are in contact. You can, if you had the opportunity to talk to my patients, we are in contact initially, almost daily, for the first week or two to see how they're doing, because a lot of patients come to me and they think they need progesterone, but it's really the adrenal glands and cortisol. They need cortisol support. And so that's a marriage we're having to balance. And so I don't feel like they see good response, but it's almost like a daily dance that we're doing for that first week or two until we dial it in. And then they're like, Julie, this is amazing. But everybody's levels are different. Everybody's coming to me with a different storyline. So it takes that one-on-one conversation. Mm-hmm. I've had a handful recently that it's not been the progesterone that they needed. They were not in perimenopause. I'll just say that. And they were fertile and thriving, and it was not perimenopause. And if I had just treated them off symptoms only, I would have made them way worse. So it's just having to put the pieces together, which means that one-on-one conversation.
Okay, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then these guys, so if you guys obviously registered, you got on, so you'll get the follow-up, which then you can, I would say, I've sent many people to Julie because I cannot drop labs. There's certain things that I'm good at and I thrive in, but I cannot, like, I'm not gifted in or skilled up in all this stuff. So I think this is so great just to have that one-on-one conversation, and then you can decide, oh yeah, I want to dig deeper for sure.
Yeah. And the first visit with us is complimentary because we know like that everyone's different, you know, it's just, so that first visit is complimentary. It's nothing, it's completely free. It's just to have a conversation to make sure that we can help you and feel like we can truly make a difference moving forward with you. So that first, there's no like it's completely complimentary.
Yeah. And Lisa concurs, highly recommend getting a consult with Julie. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, with that, everybody will get the recording. Make sure you get your resource. You've got our emails if you have any questions. We're going to be doing the PMS PCOS one in June and then the menopause version in July. So that way it closes out the 3-part series to cover all the things. And if you have any other topics or questions, please email us and we're happy to consider that for a future webinar or reach out to you one-on-one.
First. And I know someone asked me this, if you have a friend that did not jump on, and when you get the recording, by all means, share the recording with that person, because just because they weren't on, I mean, by them watching it, they're going to, know what their next best step would be too. So you're definitely lending a hand by sharing it too.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, just let us know. We appreciate everybody's time. You guys have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Bye.